Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to this review of the Tier 5 Soviet heavy tank, the KV-1S. Now this thing was designed, this thing was a modification of the KV-1, basically to make it more lightweight, to make it faster, and ultimately this thing would lead into the development of the KV-85, which perhaps unsurprisingly would mount an 85mm gun to try and deal with tigers and the like. So what is it that we have in game? Well, let's just take a look at the different aspects this has got to deliver. We're going to talk about the firepower in a moment, so not right now. In terms of survivability, 660 hit points is about par for the course for a Tier 5 heavy tank. Hull armour 75, 60, 60 and turret 82 all round. And unlike some tanks, those numbers are pretty realistic. Now, the armour is not particularly well angled on this tank, and we'll talk about the armour shortly anyway, but long story short, the armour can get bounces here or there, and especially when you're against lower tier targets, it is definitely worth angling, but don't be surprised if people penetrate you, it's not that hard to do. Mobility wise, this is where the tank should shine compared to the KV-1. It's a 45-ton tank with a 600 horsepower engine, so you've got a specific power that is in the range of a slow medium tank. And this thing does really feel like a fast heavy / slow medium kind of thing, especially when you include the speed limit of 43 km an hour, at least going forwards. 11 km an hour backwards is a little bit sluggish, but you know, not the end of the world. 32 degrees per second traverse speed again is far more heavy tank than medium. Concealment, we're not even going to bother. Spotting wise, I mean, this thing is a sort of tier 5-ish Soviet tank. The view range isn't fantastic, although 340 meters is better than some other tier 5s, to give it credit where credit is due. Now, let's have a quick look at that gun selection. Realistically, there are two guns that you could use on this tank. We've got an 85mm gun and a 122mm gun. Which one you use is going to pretty much be up to you. The 85mm gun is your regular anti-tank gun and is very similar to the weapon on the KV-1. 12 rounds a minute rate of fire, 119 penetration with AP, 160 alpha damage, 0.42 dispersion and a 2.5 second aim time. The howitzer is a dirty great big howitzer. I mean, what do you expect? Terrible accuracy, poor aim time, massive alpha damage if you can penetrate, and unlike some of the 105mm howitzers you get on the Western nations' machines, this thing actually gets pretty respectable penetration with its heat ammunition of 140, so that is something you can definitely take advantage of. I'm going to show you a replay showing each gun. Which one you use is going to come down to personal preference, but do bear in mind that the gun depression changes between them. So with the howitzer, as I currently have equipped, you end up with 5 degrees of gun depression, which whilst not fantastic, is vaguely usable. If I switch that out to the 85mm, that goes to 3.5 degrees of gun depression, so do bear that in mind. And it's for that reason, or among others, that I tend to use the howitzer, just that little more flexibility with the better gun depression. Grind wise, well, this is a bit of a weird tank. You don't go to this tank directly, but you have to play this tank if you want to go up the IS or the ISM lines, or IS3 or ISM lines. So for the IS7 or the Object 705A. But this thing is a side branch, so you first have to play the KV-1 and then you sidestep to the KV-1S. If you don't do that, then you're just playing through the T150 and you're going to culminate in the IS4. So, when you actually get to this tank, what is it that you've got to deal with? Top engine, this is potentially the first time that you have used this engine unless you've played some of the other Soviet lines up to around about tier 7, so you might have to unlock that. The stock engine has 500 horsepower, which is still eminently usable. The radios, well, the middle radio is used on a large range of different tanks, but oh, and including the KV-1, sorry, so you will probably already have that unlocked. In terms of the top radio, that is also used on the KV-1, so you will already have that unlocked, so just whack it on straight away. You can mount the 85mm gun straight off the bat if you have it unlocked. You do not need the upgraded turret for it. And you could have had it unlocked if you've played the T150 or the KV-3. If not, however, you're going to have to unlock that as well, and you're going to have to do it with this gun, which is quite painful. This is the stock gun from the T34 and the KV-1. Well, it's not technically the stock gun from the T34, but it's very similar. And the KV-1. Penetration is terrible. So yeah, you want to get through that gun as quickly as you can. You may even want to drop some free experience on this 85mm. If you want the howitzer, you're going to have to unlock the turret. You don't need the turret to get the KV-85, but you do if you want to play this tank with the howitzer. And the howitzer is only used on the KV-1S. There are very, very similar howitzers used on other machines, but Wargaming in their infinite wisdom decided to make this gun unique to this tank, the S41 variant of the gun, so you will have to unlock that separately, which is another 3,700 experience, and then you can move on to the KV-85 if you so wish. Well, I assume you would. That's probably part of the reason why you bothered to play that tank in the first place. In terms of crew skills and equipment, nothing really surprising here. It's tier 5, you don't get vertical stabilizers. So gun rammer, vents and gun laying drive is what I would recommend. You might want to go with binos or something to enhance that view range, I guess, at the expense of either the vents or the gun laying drive, but I leave that up to you. Crew skills wise, I mean, Brothers in Arms, repairs, Sixth Sense, your standard, usual good stuff. Nothing here should come as a massive surprise. And consumables, again, it's your standard set of consumables, repair kit, first aid kit, and fire extinguisher. If you decide you want to try out a food consumable, that is of course up to you. I'd probably switch out the fire extinguisher for it. I think that's enough waffling, so let's just have a quick look at the armor profile of this machine and then some gameplay. So then, armour. As you might expect, the rear armour isn't great, although, let's be fair to it, the turret armour is 82mm all around. The rear of the hull is still 60mm, so if you're a lower tier tank, let's say some of the tier 4s with quite low penetration, even shooting this thing from the rear or the side may not actually damage it. This commander's hatch here is 60mm thick with a little bit of rounding, so it is a weak spot, but it's still not that weak, again, if you're top tier. Front of the tank, well, that's sort of 75mm, lower front plate about 70. I mean, basically this tank is around about 70 to 90mm of armour from the front wherever you end up shooting it. Sometimes it goes over that, sometimes a bit below, but just to give you a rough ballpark figure. So what this means is you can get bounces from this tank, but you shouldn't rely on it too much. If this thing is side scraping, I mean, it can get some up to around about 120, 130mm of effective armour just before you hit auto bounce angle. So there is also that. So armour wise, this thing is not bad, but nothing to really write home about. Here we go then, this is a tier 5 match, and in each of these matches we're going to have a top tier and a bottom tier match, but we're also going to have a different game with each of the different guns available on this tank. So we're kicking off with the 85mm gun, I believe. Yes we are, the barrel should give that away. Now, bearing in mind, this is one of the early games I played in the KV-1S, so I'm actually using binos and a camo net on this thing because I didn't have any a proper set of available equipment. My crew is a bit potato, and I forgot to load consumables, so there's all that. But you should still hopefully be able to see the performance of the gun to a certain extent. Now, this is a slightly old replay, taken from patch 9.21. Sorry about that. So that means that this is the old Fjords map, not the new one. So as of patch 1.0, Fjords is one of the maps that Wargaming changed, gave a little bit of an update. So bear that in mind as well. The map is slightly different since I played this game, but the changes, you know, I mean, it shouldn't affect how the tank really performs. So we've got a T28 up here, a Largo, there's an STVZ39, there's something else as well. We're just going to see what we can do. So T28, I'm bothering to aim this shot. Now bearing in mind with a half decent crew this would take less time to aim. But 180 alpha damage, sorry 180, is it 180 or 160? I can't remember. 160 alpha damage, my apologies. Against tier sort of 4 machines, that's quite chunky. So that's quite a nice feature. Hello Mr. T28, goodbye Mr. T28. So you can rack up the damage fairly quickly. The biggest problem with using this gun, in my opinion, is, well, firstly actually, the greater when you get into those bottom tier matches, those tier 7 games, you do feel like the howitzer is a bit more viable. Secondly, of course, you do get worse gun depression with this weapon compared with the howitzer, so that is worth bearing in mind. But for this sort of situation, we're perfectly capable of chunking these guys down, as you can see here. And we've done over 1,000 damage to these delightful individuals. Left that Churchill on 7 health, he's dead. And there's just a DW2 T67 back there. This is a bit of a shooting gallery, to be honest. And then the enemy KV-1S shows up. Boo! And I take 2 hits from him, which is slightly suboptimal. And you can see that so far my armour hasn't achieved anything. Now bear in mind, I'm being shot in the side to start off with. There we go, the tracks eat a shell. Can I do something about this guy? Nah, that was going to bounce. But this KV-1S will manage to bounce a shot there, and he's actually dead. So the armour can bounce things here or there, but you shouldn't rely on it. And yeah, you just shouldn't rely on it. So there's only one of them left now, this STVZ39. And we're just going to try and chase him down. You know, the KV-1S is a relatively mobile machine for a heavy tank. I mean, everything has to be, you know, you have to bear in mind this is not a light tank at the end of the day, but even so, are we going to be able to get there in time to shank this guy? Yes, kill number 2. There we go, and that is the match. A nice quick one for you there, just to start off with. So that match ended up being enough for second class mastery, master gunner, fire for effect, and a high caliber medal in the end. Finished second on the team by experience done. The Leopard managed to come first with his 4 kills, but we also did 1,428 damage, got 2 kills, you know, had a pretty decent game overall. 14 shots fired, 11 hits, 10 penetrations, 8 hits received, 2 penetrated, 6 did not. Bear in mind a number of those 6 were from a very low caliber gun from a lower tier tank, so you know, don't expect that sort of performance from your armour all the time. Generally speaking, it will bounce a thing or 2 here or there, but can't be relied upon too much. And it was a tier 5 match, so it was relatively profitable, although bear in mind there was an event going on when I played this game back around Christmas time now, actually. Anyway, that's the first game. Let's show you a second one, and a reminder, yes, this is going to be a tier 7 match, but I'm also going to be using the derp gun in this one. Here we go then, tier 7 match. This time I have a better equipment loadout. I'm not using binos and a camo net. And I've also remembered to equip my consumables. Hurrah! And of course, as I mentioned, I'm using the 122mm howitzer, which gives you, I think it's 5 degrees of gun depression off the top of my head. I'll have mentioned that in the garage already. So, tier 7 match, let's have a look at the tanks that we've got on the enemy team here on El Haluf. Now, all of the tier 5s we can deal with, tier 6 is fine. Honestly, the biggest threat, in a close range engagement, the biggest threat is perhaps unsurprisingly the IS-2. Long range engagement, yeah, that E25 can murder me, so we want to keep this engagement at nice close range. So we are going to drive up to the area that makes the engagements nice and close range, so that I don't have to spend 3 years aiming this howitzer and then miss anyway, because that would suck. So just pushing our way up here, we're going to go up to sort of A1, B1 kind of area, and see what we can achieve. I mean, the nice thing with the howitzer, of course, is that you don't actually have to penetrate your target to do damage. Well, I mean, you could say that about any sort of high explosive damage. I could fire HE at the 85mm gun if I wanted, but it's a bit of a naff idea. This is a larger caliber gun, so it works better. So just coming up here with the M4, with the mediums, basically. This tank is kind of fast enough to sort of keep up with the mediums-ish. And we are going to try and provide a bit of support for them. Problem is, gun depression still isn't fantastic, so I don't think I've got the gun depression to really work that ridge line. And those guys, well, they've made it pretty crowded over there. And there you can see the gun depression. So instead, I'm just seeing if I can ambush any of these fellows. KV-85 backed off, which is a shame. Anyone going to give me anything? I have a punt there at the VK, I think it was, but no joy. IS-2 has actually gone up to that ridge, which I did not expect. Again, his gun depression is not fabulous, but you know, we'll take it, that's fine. And just seeing if we can squeeze in. cheekily any damage on any of these guys? I mean, we've lost 2 tanks pretty quickly, which is a shame, but come on, guys. Don't be so cautious. What's the worst that could happen? Not like I'm waiting to shoot you in the side or anything. VK, oh, he's going for it, but he died, so I don't get to do anything about it. What a shame. And our own M4 has killed our own Crusader. Fabulous. I mean, you gotta love random teammates, right? Aren't they utterly brilliant, is what I was trying to say. So, still got this IS-2 up here. There's BDR at the other side of that rock formation as well. And, oh, there's a Panzer IV around there too. So, I'm kind of waiting here for the IS-2 to maybe have fired. And then I'm going to try and close the distance, I think. And see if I can put this derp gun to good use. Hello, Mr. Crusader. Goodbye, Mr. Crusader. Yes, it's a tier 7 match, but those one-shots against tier 5s are still hilarious. The 61 penetration on this howitzer does mean you can do a lot of damage against, you know, more lightly armoured targets. Taking a punt at the IS-2 here, side of the turret, there we go, 113 damage. Not particularly fantastic, but that may well have messed up modules inside his turret as well. And I'm just generally trying to chip this guy away and trying to make life difficult for him. Can I sneak one underneath the hull of the Crusader? Yep, there's another 84 damage. Artillery doesn't like me, but doesn't do any meaningful damage, just stuns me for a short while. Scoreline is 5-5. And okay, no, it looks like that IS-2 has gotten wise to what I've been trying to do. I don't think he wants me doing it anymore, so I'm going to have to be pretty cautious here. Okay, the IS-2 doesn't really have a clean shot. KV-85, not so much. Scoreline is 7-5 now. It looks like our team are gaining the upper hand. Oh, the E-25's up here as well. So we're going to need to be careful of him too. And there goes our M4 as the IS-2 just blats him in the face. Come on, gun depression, come on, come on, come on, come on. I take a hit from the E-25 and I managed to put a little hit into the IS-2. I could have switched to heat ammunition there. I mean, I could have switched to heat ammunition at any old point, but yeah, it can be a little bit unreliable. I'm more just blatting people with high explosive at this point, and it seems to be going alright so far. So we're up to, what, 718 damage done. Can I squeeze any more in on that IS-2? I need to be careful here because I do not want to get ripped apart by that Dicamax. That would suck. And the IS-2 is taking a bit of a battering anyway, and he's actually dead. Hurrah. So, let's push onwards. Just going to speed this along a little bit. Whee! Right, so I managed to jink a shot or two there. Oh, we take a HE round there, and we get tracked by the Skoda, and there's the Dicamax up there. I'm thinking I might have slightly overextended here. But hey, we're getting assistance damage, so nuts to it, it's all good. Nope, they're dead. Can we do something about him? No, he's dead too, and that just leaves the Dicamax and the 2 artillery. And that just leaves the Dicamax and 1 artillery, so let's speed this along again a little bit, trying to see if I can come up behind the Dicamax, who just died. And then the artillery, but I'm probably not going to catch up with the IS-2, who's going after this guy. The artillery blats our VK in the face. What am I doing here? Why do I not just drive in? I cannot remember what the hell I was thinking. In the end, I lose a kill on the artillery for it, but never mind. And that is the match. The IS-2 picks up the kill. So, let's have a quick look at the post-game stats for this one. So once again, that was enough for second class mastery and fire for effect. 718 damage done, 1 kill, 717 base experience. Shout out to the T150 on our team, 2,500 damage, 3 kills, 1,000 base experience, especially when you're not top tier, is a pretty good showing. 8 shots fired, 4 hits, 4 pens. Well, when it says pens with HE, you have to remember that includes module damage, so treat that with a pinch of salt. 5 hits received, 3 penetrated, 2 did not, so we bounced a shot or 2 here or there. 763 assistance damage, and we made a profit in the process for a match that wasn't too long. So there we go, a little bit of gameplay showing both guns and various different tiers in the KV-1S. So what do I think of this tank? It's not bad. It can be quite fun, it's fairly mobile, fairly hard hitting. You know, it's a pretty decent all-round tank. The biggest problem I find with it is the gun depression, but it's Soviet, you get used to it. Am I keeping this? Nah, probably not, to be honest. I need to play it a little bit more to ace it, but yeah, it's alright. It's just not really quite my cup of tea. I'd rather play a Sherman or something like that, but that's just my opinion. Yours may vary, and it's definitely worth trying this tank out if you have not done so already. So, with all that said and done, I hope that you enjoyed this review, maybe even found it vaguely informative. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.